Hi guys, in this video we are going to have a very brief discussion on cultural studies. Cultural studies is a very important topic from NET point of view since they have added cultural studies as a separate model under the revised syllabus of NTA NET English syllabus. In this video we are going to have an introduction to cultural studies. What are the things that you have to study? What are the things that you have to concentrate while dealing with cultural studies? Let us begin with the definition of culture. Okay, so in order to understand cultural studies, you have to have an idea about what is culture. So the question is, what is culture? Culture is an umbrella term that consists of the social behavior or the norms that is found in human societies, as well as the knowledge, beliefs, arts, laws, customs, capabilities and the habits of individuals in these groups. Okay, so that is what we call a culture. Culture is an umbrella term that consists of, or that is the study of, the social behavior and the norms that is found in a human society and about the capabilities or the habits, the customs of the individuals in that group. That is what we call culture. Okay, so we consider a society, and in that society we go for, or we dig deeper into the norms, into the learned behavior of the individuals and how it affects the society, how it affects the other thing. That is what a culture is. And then what is the difference between culture and a society? Okay, as I said here, culture is an umbrella term that consists of the social behavior and the norms found in human societies. Then what is a society? What is the difference between culture and society? Culture refers to the set of beliefs, practices, learned behavior and moral values that are passed from one generation to other. Okay, so if we consider a group of people, or if we consider a set of people that share the same set of beliefs, that share the same set of principles or policies, and also the learned behavior and moral values, and they transfer it from one generation to another. It is their belief, it is their policy for over a period of time. That is what we call culture. Then what is a society? Society is actually a group of people who live together, or a group of people who live together in a particular region and associate with each other. Okay, so society is about a group of people who interact with each other, and culture is about the norms, the beliefs or the learned behavior these people has within the society. Okay, so that is the difference between culture and a society. Moving on with the difference. Culture is something that differentiates one society from another. If we consider the Keralite culture and Tamil Nadu culture, we will get an idea about what is the difference between Kerala society and Tamil Nadu society. That means culture is something, the difference in culture shows the difference in society, because society is a group of people and culture is actually their beliefs. Okay, the beliefs that is unique to a particular group or a particular society. So the difference in culture shows the difference in society. And if we consider the examples, or if we take the example of a culture, we will look on to the beliefs or the learned behavior or the moral values of the particular group, while for a society, when we take the example, we take the group, we take the people who share common beliefs and practices. Society is a look on the people, while culture is a look on the beliefs or the norms or the behavior of that people. So that is a difference between culture and society. Society is about people, or society is a look on the people, while culture is a deeper look within the society. It is a look on the social norms or the behavioral patterns of the people within the society. Now moving on to our area, that is cultural studies. What is cultural studies? Cultural studies is an interdisciplinary field of study. It is a study, or it is a field of theoretically, politically and empirically. Theoretically, politically and empirically engaged cultural analysis. Okay, so cultural studies is all about cultural analysis. And what are you looking on, or what does this cultural analysis concentrates on? That concentrates upon the political dynamics of the contemporary culture. the political dynamics. The word is very important. Cultural studies looks on to the political dynamics of contemporary culture, but not just political dynamics, but also about the historical backgrounds, the conflicts, the contingencies that happen between them, and also the defining traits. These are the other things that cultural studies looks into. So cultural studies is a politically, theoretically and empirically engaged cultural analysis that gives concentration, or that concentrates upon the political dynamics of the contemporary culture, including the historical background, the defining traits and the conflicts that happens within that culture. Okay, so that is a general definition of cultural studies. I hope you understand what cultural studies is. Moving on with the definition, as I said earlier, cultural studies is a cultural analysis of the political dynamics of the contemporary culture. So what is the main area of concern? The main area of concern, or they investigate how cultural practices relate to a wider system of power associated with social phenomena, associated with different social phenomena. Okay, so for example, they take a culture, they take a particular culture that defines a particular group of people or a particular society, and they investigate on how this cultural trait or how this social behavior can be put in a wider range or in a wider area associated with power. Okay, for example, just like how we say pink normally represents a girl child, or pink normally represents, or a Barbie doll represents a girl child. It shows the power influence it has in sexual orientations and gender conflicts. So here you can see here the social phenomena such as ideology, class structures, national formation, ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender and generations. These are different social phenomena. So cultural studies investigates how culture can be placed in such a wide social phenomena, or how culture can be placed, or how cultural practices can relate to wider systems of power associated with these areas. So culture studies is an interdisciplinary field where it relates a particular culture and its role in relation with other wider systems or other wider social phenomena. So that is an idea about cultural studies. And now speaking about the introduction or the beginning of cultural studies, it is Richard Hogarth. Richard Hogarth used the term in 1964 in founding the Center of Contemporary Cultural Studies at the University of Birmingham. The university is important and it is currently known as Birmingham School of Cultural Studies. Okay, so when Richard Hogarth, when he became the director of Center for Contemporary, when he became the director of University of Birmingham, he introduced a concept, or he introduced another discipline called the Center for Contemporary Cultural Studies, which is now known as Birmingham School of Cultural Studies. Another important thing that you have to keep in your mind, or another important thing that is related with the School of Cultural Studies, is Frankfurt School of Cultural Studies. In the next video, we will discuss about the difference between Birmingham School of Cultural Studies and Frankfurt School of Cultural Studies. But here in this video, have this in your mind. Richard Hogarth used the term in founding the Center for Contemporary Cultural Studies at the University of Birmingham. And you can see almost all the contributors related to British cultural studies came from this University of Birmingham, or Birmingham School of Cultural Studies. Moving on, you can see the important contributors to the field of cultural studies. They are Richard Hogarth, Stuart Hall, Raymond Williams, E.P. Thompson, Louis Althusser and Antonio Gramsci. I am sure that you have heard of these names. These are some important contributors to the field of cultural studies. Richard Hogarth, Stuart Hall, Raymond Williams, E.P. Thompson, Louis Althusser and Antonio Gramsci. In the following videos, we will have a look on each and every contributors and the important text that contributed to cultural studies. But there was a question in December 2019 regarding the contributors. The key figures in the development of British cultural studies are. So there is something you have to note in the question, that is the British cultural studies. Okay, not cultural studies as a whole, but British cultural studies. It is Richard Hogarth, Raymond Williams, Stuart Hall and Lawrence Grossberg. Okay, so these are the four options and the answer is You know it, Richard Hogarth, Raymond Williams and Stuart Hall both belong to British cultural studies. So the answer is option 3, that is A, B and C. Lawrence Grossberg, he is also a cultural theorist, but he belonged to the group of American cultural theorists. Okay, so that is the difference between them. So the answer is option 3. Moving on to the next area, these are some important terms that you have to understand before going in deep to cultural studies, that is cultural materialism, hegemony and ideology. Okay, so these are the 3 important terms that groom or that mold the entire cultural, the idea of cultural studies. What is cultural materialism? Cultural materialism is a term popularized by Raymond Williams, but what do you mean by cultural materialism? Cultural materialism aims to show that our political and ideological systems manipulate images and text of the past to serve their own interest. Okay, so that is important. Our political and ideological systems manipulate the text to serve their own interest. Okay, as I said, as it is said, history is told from the point of the hero, or history is told by the winners. You won't get to know the story about the losers. Okay, so here too, it aims to show that our political and ideological systems manipulate images and text of the past to serve their own interest, and it shows that these texts can be interpreted, or these texts can be read from another perspective. It can be interpreted from an alternatively or radically different perspective. Okay, and how is that possible? It is by placing those images or text in their historical context. If we look at the historical context of a text, we will get an idea about a different perspective, or we will get an idea about some sort of marginalized or narrowed or cornered voices in a text. That is the main idea of cultural materialism. And now moving on to the next term, hegemony. Hegemony is the dominance of one group over the other. When one group acts superior over the other group, often supported by legitimating norms and ideas. For example, in India, we know that Brahmin culture often acted as a hegemony. Okay, so that means no one questioned it. They have got some sort of legitimizing norms and ideas, and with that norms and ideas, they asserted the superiority over other religion or over other culture, and which gradually became inferior to this culture. Okay, so that is hegemony. Hegemony is the dominance of one group over the other, and it describes a relatively dominant position of a particular set of ideas and their associated tendency to become intuitive, thereby inhibiting the articulation of alternate ideas. When a group of people or when a group of believe that they are superior, gradually they will also have an idea that the other rules or the other ideas are inferior. So there is often a tendency to inhibit the articulation of alternate ideas. That is what we call hegemony. And now moving on to ideology. What do you mean by ideology? Ideology is a set of ideas and beliefs that are important to a person, a group or a culture. Okay, for example, for Christians, they believe in a particular ideology, Hindus believe in a particular ideology, Muslims believe in a particular ideology, and so on, and even the minority people, they believe in their ideologies. You can see differences within Christian culture where they follow each separate ideologies. So for that group, for that culture or for the subculture, their belief in that ideology is actually strong. So this body of beliefs influence the way individuals think, act and view the world. So this ideology shapes the point of view. Okay, it shapes the way of life, it shapes the point of perspectives. So that is about the 3 terms. Cultural materialism, hegemony and ideology. Now we are going to look at the questions that has been asked from these important terms. In June 2019, there was a question: what was Gramsci's term for cultural consensus supporting capitalism? What was Gramsci's term for cultural consensus supporting capitalism? Monopoly, ideology, discourse and hegemony. So we know hegemony is actually, hegemony means what? The dominance of one group over the other. Therefore, the answer is hegemony. The answer is option 4, hegemony. In June 2019, there is a question: what according to Raymond Williams is the right description of the term cultural materialism. Okay, what is cultural materialism according to Raymond Williams? From the options, you know that the most suitable option is option 3, that is the material effect that culture has in wider social life. It is not the cultural effect that religion has, not the political effect, not the effect of social life in cultural situations of uncertainty, but what the material effect that culture has in wider social life. Okay, so that is about the important terms. Moving on to the next topic, that is cultural subsets. There are different cultural subsets, and the first one is subculture. What do you mean by a subculture? A subculture is a unique culture shared by a smaller group of people who are also a part of a larger culture. Okay, for example, if we consider the case of Kerala is actually can be considered as a culture as a whole, but you can see different divisions within the culture. These divisions can be on the basis of religion, on the basis of the districts, so that culture is known as subculture. For example, the biker culture or the hippie culture, these are all the subcultures. And a group of people within a culture that differentiate itself from the parent culture to which it belongs, often maintaining some of its founding principles. They might follow some of the founding principles of the parent culture, but they differentiate themselves from that culture. That is what we call a subculture. Moving on to the next subculture, that is high culture. High culture is considered to be, it consists the cultural objects of aesthetic values. Okay, for example, opera, or how people value classical music. Classical music is often considered to be of an aesthetic value, while popular music or contemporary music or like hip hop is often considered to be something that belongs to the popular culture. So, and it consists of cultural objects of aesthetic values which a society collectively esteem as exemplary art. And here you can see what makes an elite group or what makes an high culture when it is followed by the people with advanced education or economic success. That is what we consider the high culture. That is when a particular interest is followed by the people with advanced education or economic success. That is what we call high culture. Moving on to the next subset, it is popular culture. Popular culture, as we all have heard, it's a set of popular ideas, or it is a set of practices, beliefs and objects that are dominant, okay, that are dominant or prevalent in a society at a given point of time. For example, how Harry Potter was famous during a particular point of time, how the concept of how the rock music or how rap became very popular during one point of time. So it is actually about the art or literature or the practice, beliefs or objects that are dominant or prevalent in a society at a particular point of time. Okay. And it also consists of the activities and feelings produced as a result of the interaction with these dominant objects. For example, there is a tendency to follow the dressing pattern or costumes of the currently released movies. So these often belong to the popular culture, something the product of what we relate, or the product of interaction with this popular culture. And John Story claims that popular culture emerged from the urbanization of industrial revolution and it is constantly evolving. Okay, so Harry Potter was belonged to the popular culture of one period of time, but right now it is not the dominant thing. Okay, so it constantly evolves, it constantly changes. It is also seen as a commercial culture, mass produced for mass consumption by mass media. That is the difference of popular culture. The next important subset is multiculturalism. Okay, multiculturalism is another word for ethnic plurality or ethnic pluralism. The view that cultural differences should be respected and it should be celebrated. For example, if we take the religion of Christianity or the religion of Hinduism, you could see there are so many differences or there are so many different types of culture within the main culture. Okay, and multiculturalism is the idea that such differences should be celebrated. It is often good to have a diversity because it strengthens the unity. So that is the concept of multiculturalism or ethnic pluralism. and it is a view that cultures, races and ethnicities, particularly those of minority groups, deserve special acknowledgement of their differences within a dominant political culture. Okay, so from the view of multiculturalism, the cultural ideas or the cultural beliefs or the social behavior of the inferior group, not inferior group, of the minority group, of the minority group, it should be considered as something specific, or it should be considered as different, but at the same time it is something that should be preserved, it is something that should be celebrated. That is the idea of multiculturalism. Moving on to the last subset, it is counterculture. Okay, counterculture is a type of subculture which strongly opposes one or more elements of the dominant culture. When the culture becomes dominant, or when the culture becomes strong for a particular point of time or a period of time, there would be some sort of oppositions that emerge within the culture against these beliefs or against these ideas. This is what is called the counterculture, or a group of subculture that is completely against some sort of ideas of the dominant culture. There are always countercultures. For example, Romanticism, it emerged as a counterculture. At the same time, the Beat generation, it also emerged as a counterculture. The angry young man, it is also a group of a counterculture. So those who share a counterculture reject the conventional values or behavioral norms accepted by the majority in a society. So that is what we call the counterculture. Okay, so these are the different subsets. We have mentioned popular culture, high culture, then counterculture, multiculturalism. So these are the different subsets. Okay, and in this video we are concluding with the cultural subset. So far we have discussed about what is culture, the difference between culture and society, what is cultural studies, who are the important contributors to cultural studies, which are the important terms that you have to understand before understanding cultural studies, and finally we have also discussed the subsets of cultural studies. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed the video. India's first rated virtual platform, Appleby, launches classroom coaching for NTA NET English. If you truly wish to crack NET and is left unguided, we are here with qualified faculties, essential notes and systemized mock test. We will make you achieve your goal with customized study plan, one-to-one interaction with students and personally designed timetable. We provide the best learning atmosphere for you to sit back and fulfill your dreams. For more details, contact us on